Hello and welcome to the PhD Life Raft podcast. I'm Emma Brzezinski and today I am talking to the wonderful Gilli McKeown about being a neurodiverse scholar. We talk about the gifts of neurodiversity as well as the challenges, and also the real importance of self-compassion. Gilli has had such a range of experiences and has such wisdom to share. So I do hope you enjoy this episode. Good morning, Gilli.
Hello, Emma. How are you?
I'm all right. Well, it's not morning with you, of course, is it? But it's morning for me. So thank you very much for taking time out of your day. We've just been saying you're a single mum. So I'm a single mum too. Yeah. So I can totally relate of how precious your time is. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you also for kind of volunteering and stepping forward, because you said you would be really happy to share your experiences with other people. And I love that. And I really respect that, because it's not easy to do that, but it's so appreciated by other people. The emails that I get saying how wonderful it has been to hear somebody else talking about something that they're going through. It's really appreciated. And if anybody's listening and going, actually, I think what I've gone through, I could help somebody else, then please do let me know. I am always delighted to hear from people and honoured to hear your experiences and share them with other people. So Thank you.
Thank you.
We always begin with the invitation for people to just talk us through their journey so far. So tell us a little bit about your journey into academia and into the PhD.
Okay, it's quite long, so I'm going
to love it
as succinct as I can. So basically, my first degree when I left school was a Bachelor of Speech and Language Therapy. So at the time I was living in England. I did that at Manchester University. And then my parents decided we were moving to Australia.
Wow.
I came over, which was very scary.
Yes.
Completely unknown. So I came over here, and speech therapy degree that I had, I needed to do some extra bits and pieces. Couldn't really afford it. So basically just had to take whatever job that I could get, which ended up being a call centre, which when I took a bit later, you will understand that's probably the worst for me. So I then, after I'd saved up a bit of money, for some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to try and be a town planner, because there's so much like building and infrastructure in Australia.
Amazing.
I absolutely hated that.
Good to give it a try, though. You gave it a try, you see.
I did. So I did a master's in international urban and environmental management. Finished that and said, definitely not. That's not what I want to do. So then I was working in insurance and really, really didn't like that either. Eventually, I did a Master's of Disability and absolutely adored it. I was basically on the way to do a PhD, but then due to some personal circumstances, it just basically wasn't possible. But I was really disappointed, because I really wanted to do a PhD for a while, and I just thought, because I loved disability so much and like my first degree was related to that, I kind of wanted to go down that direction. But then, as I said, that didn't work out. And then had like I guess a break from academia to have my daughter. And then, when she was 18 months old, I think, just after that, she was diagnosed as autistic. And because I was a single mum by that point, I was trying to like figure out how I was going to pay the bills and all that sort of thing. So then I took a slightly different tangent and did a Master of Family Studies. And then that didn't really end up with a particular like career or anything. So then I was looking around. I was obviously very interested in autism because of her diagnosis. Yes. And then I found a scholarship. I live in Brisbane, but there was a scholarship at the University of Tasmania. And basically got in touch with the people that were running that scholarship, applied for that, was successful to get the scholarship. And definitely since then been doing my PhD, which is focused on autism and physical activity and sport. And I'm probably, hopefully maybe 6 months off finishing. I'm basically writing my thesis now. So getting my first sort of draft chapters done at the moment.
Wow.
So,
wow. So let's begin at the end. And in terms of that phase that you are in now, I just really want to honour that. I'm sure there are people listening in that place as well and recognise the kind of the intensity of that moment. So just really want to sending you all the good vibes for that. Heads down moment.
Definitely needed.
But I also just want to applaud this spirit of curiosity that's taken you through, like all these different avenues that you've explored. And the really strong no's that have come back for you. And I think that that often comes up, isn't it? It's kind of, how do I know what to do? And how, like, actually you seem really, from your story, you seem really tuned into those kind of intuitive, no, that's not for me. I've explored it. It's not for me. And this, then finding a path from there. So that is just awesome. And a very valuable life skill in there. And I think that sense of from that story kind of going, actually, it's all worth exploring, and it takes you in interesting directions, and that's
definitely,
that's a good news story. But now to dive into the kind of heart of what we wanted to talk about here is your navigation of academia as a neurodiverse scholar.
And
I just wonder where you want to start with that.
I guess I'll just kind of explain like how I came to know, because it's still quite recent. Basically, as I said, my daughter was diagnosed a few years ago now, and I'd always been, I don't know, like an awkward kind of person. I had like quite a lot of sensory things, but you don't really think much of them until you're watching your daughter basically have very similar traits and struggle with certain things that you did. It was basically like watching her, and then obviously I'm a researcher, so I was researching autism, about autism. I was like, learning from autistic people to try and help her. I've watched like a million videos and webinars and conferences and everything about autism. So they were just kept being, okay, that's me. Okay, that's me. Okay. So I just basically knew, I was like, okay, I'm autistic. And then went for my official diagnosis for that. And definitely there was there was no question that was I was autistic. And then I am self-diagnosed ADHD. I can't afford the official diagnosis at the moment, right. Because over here in Australia, you have to pay for it all. It's all private, so it's very, very expensive. Right. Basically that's what my neurodivergent is, autism and ADHD. And that's kind of how I came to know. So I was only diagnosed probably the beginning of this year. So it's still all quite new.
And I think that's not uncommon, is it? Especially for women in terms of late diagnosis in terms of autism, because there's a very particular idea of what autism is.
Yes.
And then especially for women, that doesn't, the challenges that you are facing and dealing with every day don't always get picked up.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I wonder then how that is now in coming into this moment that you're in, having been through that process, having recognised, and I have to say I totally relate to that by my watching one of my sons and seeing, I'm pretty sure in terms of him having ADHD, and then going, okay, that really resonates with me too. I'm like, this is really interesting, and one of the real gifts I think of having children of that, or just being around. I think it's kind of the gifts of being in community, isn't it? Seeing other people on their journeys and then going, oh yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely.
So having come into a place where there's a kind of recognition now of the things that you knew all the time, but now you can has a sort of different perspective on that.
Sorry, I was going to say it's interesting because nothing's particularly changed in terms of the way I do anything. I haven't requested accommodations from the university. It's just more for myself. Like I understand myself more. I understand how my brain works. I understand how I process things. I understand obviously more what I struggle with and why I struggle with it. So I've just tried to work through it myself and learn as much as I can from other autistic people, ADHD people, and especially those in like a research, academia, PhD position, because obviously they understand the very high workloads, etc., and give good information of how to sort of manage that, and that's really helped. So I think it's more, it's not because I'm ashamed or anything, because I have, I'm quite openly autistic, like on my social media and things like that. But yeah, it's just the way, I've managed to do the bachelor's and the 3 master's degrees and without knowing, what's going on in my brain. And I don't know, I just feel like I just probably should just continue the way I am, but understanding myself more obviously is more helpful.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're clearly not ashamed of it because you're talking about it on this podcast. And
exactly.
You are. And I think that sense of kind of being in discussion and having people talk about it is such a gift, because then people go, oh, yeah, no, that's a challenge for me too. And that's something for me too. I think it's really interesting in terms of talking about the gift of that realization, in that this understanding, or you talked about the understanding of how you process material, how you're dealing with information, and hopefully I'm reading into it, but hopefully there's this sense then of self-compassion, of kind of, oh, okay, I do that thing and that's why I do it. And and also going, I did that and look at me, look at what I've achieved doing that, undertaking these things. And I think that on the PhD process, we talk about that a lot in terms of how important self-compassion is and not beating yourself up.
Oh, definitely.
And I think with any kind of neurodiversity or any kind of diversity, it's kind of extra self-compassion is needed.
I'm going to say, like, I've grown up just thinking, like, I'm lazy and I'm just weird. And like, why can't I do the same things as other people? And why do I get so anxious? And why do I do this? And it's just like nice to be able to understand myself and think, oh, I'm not just, lazy. I actually do have particular challenges with certain things that I'm doing. And it definitely has given me the ability to be kinder to myself, definitely.
Awesome. And I do want to ban the word laziness, because I think it's pernicious. And how amazing. I just want to celebrate again that sense of you and all the challenges that you're facing in terms of your situation in the rounds, and yet here you are, and you're doing it and in an amazing way. But I do
thank you.
Just want to think then about the particular challenges that you are facing in that kind of academic context. You touched on that a little bit, but perhaps to talk a little bit more about those, because
definitely. So I'd say my biggest challenge is executive functioning.
Right.
So trying to organize myself is quite difficult. Like, if you see my desk now, it's just like full of paper, and there's a lot of things that I basically need to try and be as specific with what I'm doing as possible. So, like, in terms of prioritizing and organizing, it's very difficult, but because I'm like learning more about my brain and how everything is working, I'm trying to obviously implement different strategies to get better at that. Just things like, I think it's the ADHD part of my brain. There's sometimes when I just can't sit down at the desk and either read or write. I just can't. So it's either trying to work out something like a more simpler task, so reply to emails, for example, or just formatting or editing, that sort of thing, where I'm not particularly doing heavy thinking, when my brain is just not in the right place to do that. But then I get hyper focus moments as well. So then there's some days when I sit down at the desk as soon as I get to it in the morning, and I'll just sit here for hours, and I'll smash out thousands of words or something. So I'll read a lot of articles in that time period. So it's basically trying to balance and recognize when my brain is just not in that place, but still trying to do things that obviously will help. But then, take advantage of the hyper focus moments as much as I can as well.
Yes. Oh, that is golden, I think, in terms of what you've said around, again, it's attending to yourself, isn't it? And attending to what energy you have for that moment, and giving yourself permission to say, okay, well, in this grand scheme of things of this week, I need to do these emails, and I need to do this writing, and I need to do this other kind of planning. And in this moment, the best thing for me to do is the emails, even though that's not what's written on the list for today, kind of that sense of giving yourself permission and of knowing that that's the right thing for you at the moment. And how amazing is that? I think that for everybody, I think that's a really useful way of thinking about planning your week, to have the things that you're going to be working with for that week, and then thinking, as you said, making the most of the energy that you're in. So in your hyper focus moments, you make the most of that. And in the other moments, you're making the most of what you can do in that time, which is, brilliant.
It is applicable to everyone. Like, obviously, if you're tired or you're sick, anyone will probably do like a similar sort of thing. They won't do the the really dense reading tasks or writing tasks on those particular days. But yeah, definitely, I think especially for me, that's been very helpful recently since, as I said, I've been learning more.
Yes. And I think, of course, for you, the extremity of those is going to be challenging in terms of, I really am in this place. There might not be so much of an option. It's kind of like, I need to do that because I literally can't sit down at the moment. There's too much energy going on. But again, I think this theme that's coming through your whole story is the sense of you tuning into yourself and working with yourself, and the real strength in that. I just love it.
It's taken a long time.
And I can hear that. And I hear the kind of wisdom then that comes out of that in terms of the journey that you have obviously been on towards this point. And it's hard-won knowledge, right?
Definitely.
And I absolutely, I just want to honour that, absolutely. Now, I always finish with the difficult question of the top tip. And I'm aware that you said that you've been kind of learning from others and there's some strategies that you kind of think, and we've already touched on that a little bit, but I wonder if there's any sort of top tips or a top tip that you would share with others who either are neurodiverse scholars or are working with neurodiverse scholars.
I would say I've probably got two main things that I would really encourage neurodivergent scholars to do particularly. One of them, obviously, it's a personal choice to disclose to the university or to your supervisors that you are neurodivergent. That's your choice and there's no pressure to do that. But if obviously that is what you choose to do, know that your university should be able to give you some kind of support. You should be able to get some sort of accommodations from your supervisors, whether that's more regular meetings or extensions, or they have particular deadlines if you really struggle to submit work on time. Sometimes that can be helpful. Obviously, if you do choose that, there should be some support out there and accommodations. So if you feel comfortable, definitely take them up on that, because I think that would be really helpful.
And I think also this sense of often the accommodations are just about kind of good practice. So accommodations around really clear communication. And as we all know in academia, communications are often really obtuse.
Yes.
And actually
not
just
very accessible.
Can you just say it really clearly for me? Actually is encouraging good practice. I think I would just examining a PhD and somebody giving the kind of clearly giving the agenda ahead of time for the viva, which actually I think is good practice. So I just want to second what you said. Yes to that. And accommodations are often just about making up for where academia is a bit rubbish, really.
Academia is not the easiest place for brains a lot of the time. So anything that can be done to make it a little bit easier, or at least supportive or understanding, like if you have understanding supervisors, that makes the world of difference.
Yes.
So definitely. And then the other thing, I think I've mentioned it before, but basically connecting with other neurodivergent researchers, academics, PhD students, master's students, whoever. Obviously, social media is a really good place. That's where I found a lot of my information. Twitter, I find, is good just for like digestible research overviews, things like that, because obviously it's just short and that is generally done in an accessible way. So I found that very useful. There are some Facebook groups, and then there's quite a few people on Instagram as well. If there's any particular people interested, I'm happy to provide links of groups or people that are useful to follow, if that would be helpful.
Amazing. And we could even put those in the show notes so that people could follow that up. I think that would be brilliant, because I think sometimes you go onto social media and you don't really know where to start. So I think that would be awesome if you did have some suggestions.
Because for me, like I'm very far away from my university, so I've always felt really isolated and lonely anyway as a PhD student. And then obviously most PhD students, they understand the PhD side of it, but they don't understand the additional challenges and things that come up with it. Just to know people and get to learn strategies from those people definitely has been really helpful. So I'd say that's very important.
Absolutely. I think finding your people and finding your community can just make a world of difference. And people who get you kind of go, love it.
Yeah, definitely makes a big difference.
Thank you so much, Gilli. There's so much useful stuff in there, and it's truly wonderful to talk with you. I love your energy. It's very very calm, and I could do with more of that. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all also for listening. Don't forget that you can sign up to Notes from the Life Raft. So a little email that will ping into your inbox every week and has extra thoughts, information on events that are coming up. So do sign up. Thank you all, and see you next time.